Fraser has named his first All Black squad of the year, folks, the one which will take on France in July. He's often been criticised in the past for going a bit Crusaders heavy, and you could have forgiven him for doing it this year, given the Crusaders just won the title again. But there's a few Crusaders big omissions, to be honest, and a fair core of a Chiefs squad, a sprinkling of some Blues, Highlanders, and some Hurricanes in there as well. We'll go through the squad, the upcoming fixtures, what are the kind of new names in the squad, who are the big names who've missed out, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how this squad is looking for the upcoming tour. Clearly, the big winner for mine, like the number one big winner, probably du Plessis-Kirifi. That guy's been knocking on the door of All Black selection for a long time. We've traditionally had a pretty decent selection of hard-tackling loose forwards, whether Artie's playing 7, when Sam Cane was captaining the side at 7, when Dalton Papali'i was the preferred guy at 7. So du Plessis has really had to, in the words of the All Black selectors, keep working, and his keeping on working has been rewarded with another spot in the squad. We'll see if he can finally get that first cap, but at 28 years old, he's been having a good season, should be at the peak of his powers, been absolutely tackling the house down for the Hurricanes, and one thing the selectors did seem to reiterate over and over again was hard work on both sides of the ball. So it's not just tackling that is going to get it done. It needs to be all-round busyness around the park. So I think the form that he's been in, that is a fair selection. However, what that means is there's obviously Sam Cane's gone. He's overseas now, retired from international rugby. But, you know, Dalton misses out. Ethan Blackadder misses out. Peter Lakai is injured, so unfortunately for him, misses out. But yeah, there are certainly other guys in that race for that hard tackling number 7. It still remains to be seen whether they pick Artie at 7 or 8. But yeah, well done, du Plessis-Kirifi. He's one of those poster boys for not just taking an All Black snubbing and heading overseas. He wants to fight for that black jersey. And also Timothy Tavatavanawa, one of the Highlanders uncapped lads in the squad, potentially takes the spot of the likes of a David Havili, who's another one of the big name kind of Crusaders guys who misses out. He is the only uncapped back in the squad. The Fijian squad was named a couple of weeks ago now. When he wasn't in that squad, you kind of had an inkling maybe the All Blacks would be looking at him for this year, because he had in a Highlander squad which finished last. He still had a pretty incredible season. You know, big carry game, busting tackles and getting offloads and winning turnovers at the breakdown, and his ability to cover midfield and the outside backs potentially adds a bit of kind of versatility, because it does seem, looking at the fact they've only got 2 wingers in the entire squad, versatility is certainly the order of the day with guys who can, you know, fill in multiple roles in a pinch. The other uncapped guys, Fabian Holland in the second row. You know, Josh Lord's had such an injury run that you kind of feel like there is a spot for another lock in there somewhere. And Fabian Holland, at like over 2 meters tall, genuinely offers something different from the other guys who they picked, the likes of Avai, Tupulotu, and Scotty Barrett, who's going to captain. So yeah, they're all under 2 meters. So to actually have a genuinely bit of over 2 meter tall Dutch timber, I think does add something. And, you know, the other guys have been really busy around the park as well. Avai's probably been our best line-out operator. Scotty Barrett, I think, silenced a few critics throughout the season. And Paddy Tupulotu, again, was one of the kind of bright spots on a disappointing Blues season. But yeah, Holland with that big bit of extra frame could add something else. And then Brodie McAllister as the replacement hooker, or the uncapped hooker. I say replacement because if he's going to get a game, it's probably as a replacement. He seems to have taken the spot of George Bell as that kind of next potential hooker cab off the rank. But Taylor and Tokiaho are there, so you would imagine game time would be pretty limited for him. But again, another guy who's rewarded for a bit of consistency. And then Ollie Norris, loose head prop for the Chiefs. Big dude, like, you know, not that far off 2 meters tall. Pretty tall for a prop. So they talked about his game about being kind of big both sides of the ball as well. So yeah, you feel like there's some encouraging signs for the uncapped guys who they have chosen. Mostly seems to be pretty well picked on form. I do feel like David Havili was probably a shoo-in, given that he's had a pretty good Super Rugby season and he's a Crusader. Not enough for him to get picked. Likewise, Ethan Blackadder. Those guys do seem to be the main omissions. I mean, Mark Talia's heading overseas, so I never saw him getting picked. And, you know, Finlay Christie probably didn't benefit for the fact that we've got a fair few good halfbacks at the moment, and again, the Blues didn't have the best season. The other props, and I think prop-wise, I think the All Blacks are looking pretty good. Toss is a massive unit. Newell scrummaged the house down in that Super Rugby final. Lomax has been good for a number of years now, and then Tamaiti Williams, Ethan de Groot. Tamaiti Williams has been hella good form as well. How good did the Crusaders scrum? How much better did it look when that guy is starting? I think we're pretty well stacked in that area. And then loose forwards, other than Karifi, Finau, I mean, he's a bit taller and a bit heavier than some of the other loosies, so if they want to go for a big number 6, they can do that with him. You know, he's been good for a loose forward in terms of his line-out operation this year. And then Satiti is maybe one of the guys who is a little bit of a reputation pick, because I know he was injured at the start of the season, but he didn't come back with kind of the hiss and a roar factor that we saw him get Breakthrough Player of the Year last year internationally, but he certainly got the potential. Jacobson is named, but is not immediately available because he suffered a head knock in that final up against the Crusaders. So Christian Leo Willie is named currently in the squad as cover for him. Xavier is obviously there. He is going to be one of the first names off the team sheet. Other guys not considered due to injury. I mentioned Lakai, Sam Derry, Ofatunga Fasi, and Alsofo Almua. In terms of the halfbacks, they're pretty steady with Roigard, Ratima, and Hotham. Hotham was in pretty good form for the Crusaders come the end of the season, but you still feel like Roigard is probably the first cab off the rank. The 210s, Bodie and D-Mac. So no real spot for a bolter there, but we have seen Ruben Love pulling the strings at 10 for the Canes, so he could potentially fill in there in a pinch, because he is going to, you would think, be that kind of utility role. Midfield is looking crowded. Like ALB is picked, but like Jacobson, he's got a question mark over his fitness. He's not immediately fit, so they've got Narawa kind of covering him. But he's more of a winger than a bloody midfielder. I know he can play in the midfield, but it's an interesting call to have Narawa as the cover for ALB. Then Geordie Barrett, who's coming back from Leinster. Rico Quintupaya's back in. He's had a good season in terms of big carrying game for the Chiefs. So he's rewarded for a bit of form, pleased for him. And then Proctor, I think a lot of us would like to see Proctor get a go at 13, the way he was able to link up that Hurricanes backline. And as I mentioned, Tavatava Nawai, the kind of uncapped guy. So there's only 2 midfielders you can play at a time. But they've picked a lot more guys who've been playing in the midfield than wingers, because the only 2 wingers are Clark and Reese. And as I mentioned, Narawa, who's kind of in as initial cover for ALB. But of all the midfielders they've picked, I mean, Geordie's played Test rugby on the wing. Not that I see them picking him on the wing. Rico can play on the wing. Obviously, it's where he started his career. Quintupaya's filled out on the wing. It needs to be, but I don't think you're picking him as an international winger. Tavatava Nawai, I feel like, looked better in the midfield than he did when he was playing on the wing this year. But, yeah, only the 2 real specialists. Ruben Love, the utility, and then Will Jordan has been super sharp at the back for the Crusaders, but also a little bit niggly with injury at times. So, yeah, the back 3 is maybe looking kind of utility and less specialist. Like Jordan, Reese, and Clark, you would think, are the kind of 3 locked-on guys for that back 3, with Love potentially as a utility role. But who knows? Maybe Razor pulls the trigger on something a bit more out there. I think kind of like Satiti, Caleb Clark, his pick is a little bit reputation-based as well, because I don't think for the Blues he exactly lit things up this year. Other guys who potentially could have made it, potential bolters, it would have been nice to see Leroy Carter, because he was in good form for the Chiefs, but to be fair, the Chiefs are fairly well represented, and he seems to be behind Narawa in the pecking order just at the moment. Simon Parker probably got injured at the wrong stage of the season for the Chiefs and the loose forwards. Tom Christie had another good year for the Crusaders, but as they emphasised the both sides of the ball thing, every time you look at Tom Christie's stats when he's playing loose forward for the Crusaders, he's an amazing tackler, great turnover merchant, doesn't have the biggest ball carrying game, which maybe seems to be something missing from his arsenal, although he still bagged a few tries this year, certainly in the later rounds. Falau Fakatava, his stocks seem to have fallen at number 9 as well, so he's been able to force his way back into the squad, but yeah, that is Razor's squad. 3 tests coming up against the French, Dunedin, Wellington, and Hamilton. So no Eden Park record under threat from the French just yet. Remember, they were the last ones to win there way back when. French squad is going to be without some big guns, but they are certainly not lacking for depth. It will be interesting to see how experienced Razor's initial selections go. What do you guys think of the 5 uncapped players? Who do you think's unlucky to be omitted? Is Blackadder or Havili or somebody else potentially the hardest player done by, because they can only pick so many? And how do you think the back 3 is going to line up? D-Mac or Bodie at 10? Lots of choices for Razor to make. You guys let us know your thoughts. If you want some All Blacks gear, I saw they were having a pre-season sale on, so check the link down in the description to the All Blacks shop. They're an affiliate of the channel. You guys take care, and talk to you guys again soon. See you later.